In the last video, we covered the company asset management screen. What we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit more about that screen and some of the subordinate child records that are portals within the screen and the issue history to give you a little bit more information about them. So let's go over and look here on the navigation. You have the company asset screen they're in now. You have the asset list view, which is a list view of each one of the individual records for the assets within the application. As far as each new record that you create in the parent, you can read those as far as a list view. So let's go look at those. In this particular screen, we're going to go over here and we're going to say show all to bring all the records back. You should do that when you're in a list view if you don't see or don't think you see all the records. In this particular case, each time a new record is created, there'll be a new row. And what you're supposed to do if you're using this screen is you're supposed to use it to look for or group by the records in selection, the records that you're interested in having. Now what you can do is you can use the do action and go over here and say start a search, and when you do that you'll see the screen flip and the little magnifying glasses will be shown here. And what they want you to do is to put in something that is related to this, like the asset ID number, something about the asset name, and I'll point out that you can put in a amount of the actual name. You don't have to have the full description. So for example, say this is a forklift 5-ton and it was made by Case. You could put in there either Case or the forklift, and what it would do is it'd find all forklifts that were Case, or what it would do is if you just put Case, everything that was a Case, which is the brand name, would be shown in the listing in the current selection. If you're looking for a specific individual serial number, you could put in the serial number to a certain degree. You don't have to put all the numbers in as long as it's unique, and then that would allow you to go ahead and pull up all those records. And then the asset department, if you wanted to find all the assets in, say, for the IT department, you could put in IT and it would bring up all the assets for the IT department. Right now I'm just going to show you. I'm going to click in. I'm going to go ahead and put in the 1. Now obviously I'm doing this on a desktop computer. If this was on a iPad or iPhone, then that particular stuff would be done by touch, and then you'd be touching these items. Now once again, I wanted to point out here, you can look at this little pop-up over here and you'll see that it says include matching, omit matching, and there's a additional thing here where you can say duplicate the find request or revert to the previous find request. These would be tapped on in order to bring out or cause that change. In this case, you wouldn't necessarily using previous and next to move up in between the records when you can tap between them if you need to. To remove this from the screen, just click off and it'll go away. This is the copy and paste button. As we pointed out earlier, you do not want to use this. This is where you add new records, and you do not want to do that because the application is set up to allow you to do that without having to press the add record button. When you're done here, you can just go ahead and say done, tapping on it. And now what I want to do is perform the search. So what I'm going to do is go up to the do action and say perform the search. It'll flip back over and it'll have the record in there. And as we stated before, you saw that little temporary pop-up over here. If I click in here and then click on this radio button ID here, you can see that I can show all or show omitted, or I can move back and forth between the records between what the current selection is. And every time I move, you'll see the numbers change. It'll go from record 1 of a set of certain amount of records to number 2, number 3, and so forth, or back again. So those are the kind of things, and also obviously you can do show all and show omitted if you need to. So I can hit done and it will pop away. Let's go ahead and look at the next item on the list, and this time we won't have to do helps because we'll understand what we're looking at when we're in the screen. Let's go to asset issue history. This is that little individual pop-up, but this is the individual record. Now as I pointed out in previous videos, you can do a find in here, a search that we did over here. These are portal records. You cannot do a search on the main screen, which is the asset management screen, because you can't search within a portal on the main screen. But you can go in here and do a search for items within this area for these fields that are in here based on where this asset has been distributed or its issue history, so you'll know exactly over what period of time that item was at a point and then brought back into the general inventory, and who had the custody and what department they were in. So this thing can move around through your business at different locations and different people who are having custody in different departments, if that's the kind of product that it actually is. And then you can put some notes in here if you need to, as far as the things about the custody and or things that may have happened to the item when it was in the custody of this person, which gives you a tracking history of, say, if the item was damaged or something, or had been damaged so badly that it's no longer useful. Let's go up and go back to the menu now. We're going to look at user-defined fields. Now, as I stated in the actual videos, user-defined fields have two rows, a field title and a field data. And also, you'll notice that it's carrying the unique ID from the parent record to the child record. These records here are basically used when you go to the portal and you want to find out where reoccurrences of the same information or an individual record is carrying a specific field, either by title or by the actual data in the field. You would go over and do a search and find that record, and then in the records in selection, when you go back to the list view, those would be the items that would be listed by those items. Okay, let's go again to the next item. This is asset type. And asset type allows you to edit this screen and add different kinds of types of items that this actually is. For example, this is for the type of asset as far as a kind of item it is. It could be a computer part, it could be a circuit card, it could be a component item, electronic. Now, in your company, obviously, let's take something way off to a crazy thing. Maybe this is a tire on a truck. So it could be either drivetrain or a wheel. So it could be drivetrain as far as where you're going to put it into a category, or it could actually be the wheel if you wanted to break it down that far. This is really up to you how many items you want to list. You can have as many as you want as far as the item types that you want to track within your own company, because it may be unique to your company. The way you create a new item is you go up to a new record. And as you can see, I'm adding a new record in here, and this is actually not a major parent, but this is treated similar to a related parent record. When you create this information, it allows the parent record to use this information. It's kind of like a reverse relationship. In this case, it would be many of these to one record on the actual management record. Okay, so let's go on. We'll go over and we'll go to the next item, which is the type of sales company. And this is used in the asset management record, where different kind of companies have different fixed types that they are, like a computer company, an equipment company, office, and tools. The reason I standardize these in this application is if I use these where you have to change them or type them in, they will be very obscured if you put them in and people keep typing different things. For example, if you wanted to do a search for office equipment company, and somebody put it equipment company when it's really office equipment company, somebody might put the wrong thing or search on the wrong thing. So you make it very declarative and unique so that people will know what they're looking for when they're going through searching the different records within the management screen. For example, if I wanted to see all the ones that were sold or sold from an equipment company, I could look there. If they were all office equipment, I could look there, and so forth. Let's go on to the next thing, which is the type of sales company we just did, asset value report. The asset value report takes all the assets that are currently in the company, and it provides a breakdown by each one of the individual items. In this case, it's asset ID number 1, its asset name, and the purchase date. Then the subordinate information to there that you saw in the main record. And one of the things that it does is each individual asset is broken out where it shows the actual value, the sum of the asset value. It'll say the sum of the asset balance due. And this is in the case where it's actually being sold. And what this would be, where if it's sold after a certain many months, years, or whatever that it was used, and you decided to sell the asset for salvage value or whatever, to put some capital back into your company as far as releasing the asset, then that's what this would be. And in this case, the sum of the value is the actual price that was paid originally on the item. If you sold it for whatever you sold it for, then that would be the value sold, and the balance due if it had not been paid off yet. And this is for each individual record in an asset. And then this is the report summary. So if I looked, for example, for everything that it was a type of equipment for an end item assembly, and this could also be office equipment, for example, that could be that I would use that information to go find the item, and then down here it would summarize for the report all the assets that I found that are like that item and the values of those items. It's a very useful report for seeing the distribution of capital of your assets within the company by the type of item, and also you could do it by the department. So I could go in for the department and I could see all the assets for the department, or I could pick an additional field saying I want only types of assets within that department and how many they have. Or for example, if this was an asset named HP 3060 mainframe and we had more than one of those, I could find out where they're at and what department they're in and who is the asset person assigned to that. So there's a lot of things. And then of course I'd have the plan account number. Let's talk a little bit about plan account numbers. Plan account numbers are used when you do an inventory annually to find everything in the company and match it back to its plan account number. And this could be a government item, or it can be within your own company of assets that you have within your company, or it could be both. You could have a plan account number and also a government thing if it's government-owned equipment that you're using within your company. And obviously you have to treat that different because you're going to have to report back to the U.S. government or your government whatever the item is and how that asset is distributed within your company. And if it's going to be sold, it'd be something that either be salvaged back to the military or whoever has it, civil or whatever, and that way they would be taking the asset, and it would be not something that would be an asset within your own company as far as capital equipment that you own, but you would not also have an asset thing where you purchased it unless you did purchase it from the government and that you're going to get a value back after you've used it for a while. So there's a lot of those kinds of things. And of course you have this serial number where you can track the items to verify the actual item when you're doing the plan account asset checking. You would check the serial number and the plan account tag on the item to make sure that that is the same item that you're tracking. So you could basically take an iPhone or an iPad and go around and do a complete inventory of all the capital equipment within your company by using this report. Okay, then let's go back up here and look. We just covered everything in the company asset information, and that's the kind of things that you want to manage as far as the data is concerned, and tracking and doing inventory and also managing your plan account items. If you have any questions, you need any assistance, you can always contact us through the developer support. And you can find that very readily by clicking right here on the developer support. You can start a chat or send an email or talk live online if you want questions and help with the actual application and usage. Thank you.